Welcome to 5 and 5 from the One Stop Co-op Shop, where I discuss 5 key elements of a game in about 5 minutes. I'm Michael Kelly, and today I'm looking at Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig from Stonemaier Games. And a thank you to Stonemaier for sending me a review copy of this one. So this is a competitive Euro tile laying game, but they added solo play, 2 different variants of it in the newest expansion, Secrets and Soirees. How well do those solo modes play? Let's find out and get to the list. So first I'm going to start with a mix at number 5, which is the fact that you are dealing with random tiles and picking the ones you want to place in your castle or castles. And this is a mix because some players are going to like it and some players are going to hate it, and it highlights one of the key things about the game that I think might appeal to some and not to others, which is the fact that it's highly tactical but not too strategic. Because in both solo modes as opposed to competitive play, you only see a small fraction of all the tiles at a time, so you have less information about what might be valuable or not so valuable. In competitive play, you're drafting as you pass the tiles around, so you see a lot more, you have a lot more information, but not so much in solo. So you might like that if you want your decision space to be smaller and make quick tactical decisions, but if you want a big strategic picture, you're going to find that more in competitive than in solo. But we're up to a full pro for my number 4, which is the fact that they threw in 2 different solo modes. The first of them really tries to model the competitive experience where you are sitting between 2 castles and building on both of them, whereas the second solo mode is kind of simpler and faster. You're just building your own singular castle while you try to stop the Automa from getting the best tiles for them. And there's not much to say here besides that I think it's really cool that they did this. It kind of appeals to both camps of solo players. Some people want it to model the competitive play, some people want the most streamlined experience for them to make solo decisions possible, and you get both here, so it's great. And I have another pro for my number 3, something really simple, but I don't think I've seen it in a solo variant before, and that's the fact that you have some really cool input in how the solo Automa make their decisions. In both of the solo modes, you have kind of a similar thing where you lay out a series of tiles and you get to select which ones you are most interested in, which ones you want to potentially place in your castle or castles, and the AI will react to that. Sometimes they'll take the tiles you wanted and you'll have to go with a backup plan, and sometimes the Automa will avoid them, but then you'll be forced to use them, and maybe they weren't really what you were looking for. And there are even tricky things you can do here where you can pick a tile you don't want because it increases the probability that the Automa will pick it, especially in the second Automa mode, and you can kind of like mess around with them that way. But yeah, to summarize, because I'm rambling a bit, I just like the idea, the concept of picking your preference before the Automa goes, and that influencing their decisions. It's a cool thing I'd like to see in more solo designs. But for my last 2 points, let's get to the actual tile laying, the core concept of the game. And my number 2 on that front is a pro, and that's the bonuses you get for putting a bunch of tiles of the same type on your board. So when you reach either 3 or 5 tiles of the same type, you get to immediately place a different tile, generally speaking, that will give you even more points, give you cool bonuses. And the thing I like most about this is that it's the main source of tension in your tile selection, because you can usually look at the tiles and see which one is most likely going to give you the most victory points, but having these bonuses for multiple tiles of the same type complicates that, because the thing is, most tiles score for tiles of other types. Like, you really have to chain together purple tiles with gold tiles, or gold tiles with corridors to get the most points. But then you sometimes have to reconsider that because of these tantalizing bonuses, and it makes a simple tile laying game a lot more interesting. But all that being said, my number 1, the tile placement itself, is just a mix, and that's because, unlike the tension I just talked about, once you have the tile, once you've chosen what to place on the board, it's really pretty straightforward, really simple, and that's not necessarily a terrible thing. I'm not saying I want like all these permutations to consider, but it's usually really obvious what the best spot for a given tile is. Now, it's still a mix for me, not a con, because I like the concept of building up your castle, the fact that tiles have to be underneath each other to build up higher floors, and some things have to go underneath your castle, some things have to go above. So there are interesting choices here, and you are, of course, trying to build for the future. Like, you'll put a tile down and then try to get other tiles to kind of go around it, but with the randomness and the kind of tactical nature of the game, that doesn't always pan out. So the tile laying is just okay, not exceptional, by no means bad, just pretty basic and straightforward. So overall, I recommend Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig to tile laying fans. I think it's nice, it's straightforward, it's quick, and the 3+ player mode works really well with you kind of sharing castles with other people, and the solo modes are really cool too, and you've got 2 options, so it's hard to go wrong. But on the other hand, what you see is what you get. This is a fairly basic tile laying game, so you might want to avoid this if you're looking for deep strategy. It's mostly tactical in nature. If you're looking for tough solo play with an interactive opponent, it has some of that, but really they can be a bit random. And don't forget, if you want to play this one solo, you need to pick up the Secrets and Soirees expansion as well as the base game, so that might influence your decision as well. And And I did do a full playthrough with one of the solo modes. Click the link that just popped up if you want to check it out. But until then, good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.